talking to you. So I apologize about that in advance. But if you are a small business owner, you know what it means to manage all the hats. And that is what our company does. We help owners learn to facilitate how to grow their business through the different stages. And we do that by helping them manage and teach all of the different hats, which involves systems, which involves training to the employees, which involves creating the plans and documenting to implementation. All of those things are necessary when you want to grow and scale a business. And we know it can be very hard and it can often be very lonely, but we all have a reason why we started the business. And we're going to dive a bit further in that today as we talk about time. And the way that we do this is we do this all through one-on-one advising. We have some great resources like an annual conference. We have these webinars, some other group programs, but ultimately we consistently meet with our clients anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a month, and we help them set themselves up to grow and scale the business. So now you know a little bit about us in case this is the first time you've joined, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in. And today it's going to be about managing priorities. I think this is the toughest skill as an owner to try to learn. It is so hard. You are being pulled in every direction. And I know a lot of you are shaking your heads right now going, yep, how the heck do you know what to focus on, when, why, how do I focus on it the right way? This is not something that's easy. This is not something that just comes naturally. You have to work at this. There's a science to this. There is something, you have to create some type of system that'll help guide you through that hectic day-to-day that happens as the business owner, no matter what stage of the business you're in. And I have a lot of experience in working on this. I've supported and advised over 200 business owners myself, so I've definitely seen this. I definitely can speak from a lot of different stories, but also my own experience of being an owner in multiple businesses. So these are essentially my findings, and I've also stole some of the best practices from my team to bring forward today for all of you, so you can help implement these objectives into your business and into your ongoing productivity. I think productivity, though, is this, it's always a focus. It's not this skill that you can just learn. It always gets harder. There's always technology. There's always things coming out that can help you speed up or slow down, get more efficient, get more effective. And even if you've heard some of the things from either your advisor that I walked through today, or maybe you've seen me speak before on this topic, come in with an extremely open mind. I first started to design this webinar and I was like, I got to really change it from the basics. But then as I started to navigate through, I just realized it's the basics that continue to be the roots that people really struggle with, because it's just not something talked enough about. And so I'm really excited to get into the content today. All right. So for some quick expectations for those of you who haven't joined us, chat. You're going to notice very quickly, a lot of people are going to be chatting. We like it that way. This should be interactive. If you have ideas, throw them out there. We're all learning together. If you have questions, throw them on there. The only thing you need to make sure you do is select all panelists and all attendees. That'll allow you to talk to everybody. So feel free to jump on there, say hello, start a conversation. I've got some advisors that have joined us today that'll be chiming in if some questions come up. On the Q&A side, if you navigate towards the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A button. That is how you can send out a question privately. And then after, we will come back and actually answer that for you via email. So if you have something you don't want, maybe it's very personal to you for whatever reason, and you don't feel like the chat's the best function for you, feel free to use that Q&A option. We're gonna have a few polls to keep a pulse on the group. And then as always, we will send out our post webinar, and we have some really good resource options at the end that you can sign up for. So I show this slide every time. It's so important, this theme of graduated learning. And the concept is all of you are probably on a different stair of this staircase for your skill. My goal is not to help you get to the expert today. My goal is to help you take 2 steps forward. And I'm going to challenge you as we go through this. There's nothing I'm going to teach today that is just absolute rocket science. But I challenge you to approach it for what it is and go, my goal today is to find and write down the 2 biggest things I have to take action on and change in my productivity approach. Think about it. If you were to change 2 things that could get you 10% of your time more productive, 10%, you're talking about a whole month off. You're talking about a whole month more of productivity. Imagine what that would do for the business. So this isn't massive changes we have to find. These are about tweaks that we can adjust in our own venture of productivity as owners as we navigate this very up and down world. And it will take time to implement. I know a lot of you work with our advisors, so talk with your advisors about this. Get onto conversations with them and help them hold you accountable to some of the changes that you wish to make. So here's what I'm going to cover today. We're going to talk about, first off, why is this so hard? Why is this such a hard skill? I'm going to slow that down. I'm then going to walk you through my big 3 questions that I think every owner has to be able to answer when trying to manage their time. And the third one, I'm going to give you some of my skill hacks that I think will help you as you navigate this world. And then, as always, I'll land on some toolkits and resources that you can grab on the back end of our portal here for all of our clients. So let's jump into the chat here. What are you hoping to learn today? Why did you join? And if you've joined before, I always do this because it helps me navigate why did you join? Because I can operate on the fly. I will totally start to tweak towards some of these responses. So jump in the chat room. What do you want to work on when it comes to your productivity? What are you hoping I discuss as we get into this conversation today? Give everybody a moment here just to get their responses in the chat. Time estimation is always off. Yeah, so you estimate the time, but it's always not the accurate amount of time. So you probably go over. I'm sure it's not the other way around, Aaron, where it's under. Looking for a reset to remind me why a stock schedule is important. Less distractions. Always have a huge backlog of things that never seem to get done, okay? Just how to prioritize generally. The dreaded distractions. Got a few tweaks on that today that might help you. I'm always trying to multitask, but it's not productive. I've got a good story that'll help ingrain in your mind to help you kick past that. A little bit of work-life balance. Very cool. Sometimes sorry, just reading here to catch up. Thank you. Not knowing what you don't know. Fair enough. John, I'll do my best to find those things that maybe you don't know. Something always comes up. Awesome, Scott. We're going to be able to connect on that today. Jason, good. We'll talk a little bit about the mindset. I think we can get to that. How to prioritize the highest value tasks, how to cut back procrastination. Whew. Guys, you guys all realize this is 45 to 50 minutes, right? They just keep coming. Now it's just a game. How many can we keep coming in? This is great. This is really, really good. I've got some great ideas. I know where I'm going to drive this now. Thank you for that. Sit back, get ready to take some notes. Let's get into this and let's make an impact. So let's talk about why is this so darn hard? It is so freaking hard. And one of the things that I find makes it so hard is you have to identify what type of individual you are. How are you currently operating? And it pulls down to this. We're actually going to run a poll on this, so go ahead and launch it while I explain it. It's reactive, preventative, and proactive. Which one are you? Are you reactive? Do you operate in the reactive mindset? Are you constantly putting out fires? Are you constantly running to the problem and trying to keep up? Or are you preventative? Are you constantly thinking about what's coming up? A lot of times preventative individuals get stuck in their own mind, kind of a little bit of paralysis by analysis. I have so much, I generally know what to go do, but I'm constantly thinking about it. Or are you proactive? Are you in front of it? Are you in a situation where you can read what's getting ready to take place so you always feel like you have control over your calendar? And it's okay. None of these are wrong. It's just where you're living today as the owner. Very interesting. We'll give everybody just another few seconds here because we've still got a few answers coming through. All right, I think we've got majority now. We've got about 80% have voted, so we're going to go ahead and push this out. Thank you for that. So it looks like most feel they're preventative, which isn't surprising. You'd say, hey, I'm in the middle. Sometimes I can be proactive. A lot of times I'm in the reactive mode, but a lot of you probably get stuck with decision making. How do you choose the right priorities? And how do you know they're right? It's not like there's a book somewhere that says this is what you should be doing, right? It'd be great if there was. Some of you are also feeling very reactive, large percentage right behind it. We've got a few on the phone that are saying they're feeling proactive. Great. If you selected proactive and you've got some things that help you do that, don't be afraid as we hit those topics to throw that into the chat box. I know other people love hearing what other people are focused on. Awesome. Well, thanks for letting us kind of cut through that. That helps me get a good idea of who's on the call. We'll go ahead and stop that poll there. All right. So I need to challenge you to become a lobster today. If you want to work on not being preventative and getting into that proactive world, not being reactive and getting into that proactive world, I'm going to ask you to be a lobster. And I actually learned this from one of our advisors recently. They gave me this great analogy. I had to share it. I've just been dying for the opportunity to share it. For those of you that don't know, lobsters grow by actually getting really, really uncomfortable. And the reason why they do this is because they have to break their shell in order to grow. So what I'm going to ask you to do today is get really, really uncomfortable. Think differently than how you've thought before. Let's get in really awkward positions together, and we're going to break our shell. Now, the problem is once you've broke the shell like lobsters, you're then naked. Yep, that's right. You feel vulnerable, right? This feels uncomfortable. And that's what's going to happen as you go try to implement some of the things we talk about today. It's okay to be naked in this setting. From there, be open to that vulnerability. Understand that it's going to take time to work through some of these changes, but then ultimately on the other side, you'll get a nice big red shell that will protect you, that you will feel comfortable in. And that is the process of going through a hard transition and growth, which is what lobsters do as they continue to grow. All right. So we're going to help you get uncomfortable today. All right. And get a little vulnerable. And we're going to move some meetings. So the biggest thing that I find when I meet with small business owners on a constant basis is this: they mistake movement for achievement. You cannot mistake movement for achievement. Think through that. Think right now, just reflect for a moment and process what happens as you look at your schedule. Are you just doing stuff to do it? Or is there truly a purpose behind why you have to do it? Does it connect to the achievement and the end goal that you're shooting for? Or are you just really busy and just working on a lot of stuff because that's what you've done prior? I can consistently see this be the issue that most owners deal with, is they mistake movement for achievement. As an owner, you have to achieve so much per week or per month. You don't actually have to work. You're not an employee. You're not structured in a way that says you must work set amount of hours. You are structured in a way that says I need to achieve X, Y, and Z in whatever time period. Meaning movement is nothing. Achievement is everything. I know some of the hardest working entrepreneurs have some of the smallest businesses I've seen, cannot figure out how to get to that next level. And it's because they're doing a lot of movement. And I'm going to help break that down. And when we were at our annual conferences last year, I got up in front of everybody and just talked about this concept of the day in the life as an entrepreneur and all the stages you work through. And as you can see, I'm sure a lot of you see this curve. You've all ridden it, right? That constant every day, just the highs and lows. One minute you think you're on top of the world, the next down, down in the dumps, not confident, have lost that confidence, not able to operate the way you know you should. The reality is that how you manage your priorities is probably one of the biggest leading indicators or influencers that will help you drive towards having a more sustainable flat line so you don't experience as many of the highs and lows. And that's what I want to help you understand today as we walk through this. So here are my big three. Here are the big three questions you need to know at all times as a small business owner. The first one, why do I do this? Why are you crazy? Why have you signed up for this opportunity to run a business? Yes, I know all the great perks, but there's also so much that comes with it. You are managing so many things. Multitasker is an understatement when it comes to becoming a great entrepreneur or owner that scales and grows an organization. So you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? And to help you connect this, I think Napoleon says it best: a goal is a dream with a deadline. All of you had this dream at one point. You had to have to be able to make the decision you were going to become a business owner. So what was that dream? But then the way it becomes the goal that you're working towards is you probably just picked a timeline, a deadline of some point when you wanted to achieve that dream by. And that's the part that starts this process. And if you haven't converted your dream into the clear goal and connected a deadline, you'll have a very hard time knowing what priorities you should manage. Because what we do is we wake up every day and we roll massive boulders up a very steep hill. I mean, that is the essential aspect of building and growing a business. The question is how many rocks or boulders do you roll to the top? When do you start to have people get behind you and help you push them? But at the end of the day, what's very important about this analogy is that you cannot lose focus on what is at the top. Not monthly, not weekly, not daily. You cannot lose focus. You have to wake up every morning on your drive or commute, however you get to work. Maybe it's just a walk down to the neighboring bedroom where you have a home office, whatever it is. You have to be clear on what that end goal is. Because without this skill is impossible. Because you have to know what you're working towards. What is your end goal that you're going to fight for? You have to know this question because, and if you don't know me, I'm a massive Blackhawks fan, and this is bittersweet because we didn't make the playoffs this year, but we've been there before. But it is about the goal. What is it that's going to get you to raise your Stanley Cup? What is it? And if you're saying, I'm really struggling with what that is, this is your takeaway. Because going further in this process will not help you until this is locked in and identified, because everything else is going to flow and be a breakdown from it. And I just saw somebody say, "Go Leafs, go." Are we able to kick somebody out? I don't know if that's possible. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. You have to have the end goal in mind. I think I've made it clear. Let's go to number 2. What is the value of my time? What is the value of my time? How do you know what you should and should not be doing? There's a couple ways to think about it. One of the biggest things we see constantly when we meet with our small business owners is this: you let yourselves be open 24 hours a day. You do realize that when a diner is open 24 hours, they have shifts. People come in for their 6 to 10 hours at a time. They cross over each other. Someone's not literally there for 24 hours. If you are set up this way, you really have to take a hard look in the mirror and realize that that is not a sustainable way to grow the business. You'll never be able to grow past yourself if you cannot figure out how to do what you need to do in a normal calendar of some kind, amount of time worked. You won't be able to scale this. You won't be able to sell the business. You will most likely not achieve that end goal or that end growth. And you can flip this the other way to go, well, what is the right way to do it? And I'm going to use a simple analogy. Let's think about, when are retail stores open? When are restaurants open? They give you the time in which they open, the time in which they close. If you do not have your working hours written down and locked in your calendar, you're starting off with managing your priorities on the wrong foot. So me personally, I'm an early bird. I like to get in the office around 7. I'm usually gone by on average of about 5:30, maybe 6. That's my schedule. So yeah, I can put in 50, 55 hours a week, but I'm able to do that in a very controlled amount of time. I do not check in on the evenings. I very rarely will jump in on the weekends. And I force myself, no matter how painful it is, to just wait until I clock back into work. And that might be really crazy for some of you. Go, I literally signed up for this role and created this business so I didn't have to live a schedule. I get it. I really do. I understand the autonomy. I understand the opportunity. But it is so crucial that you also understand, if you do not create your structure, you will fall down massively. And so what's extremely important here is that you identify what your work hours are. The autonomy is that you get to choose. You get to choose when these hours are. But once you choose, you have to stick with it. The second thing I constantly see is owners not protecting their sleep. Again, before I can give you some of these keys and this process to follow, sleep is an investment in the energy you need to be effective tomorrow. It's one of my favorite lines I've heard in the past. It is so crucial that you get your sleep. I always get 8 hours of sleep. I have to. What it takes for me at a mental capacity on a daily basis to continue to do what I have to do, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, you need your sleep. You will find yourself performing much better in that approach than you ever will without sleep. So make sure sleep is a priority. But let's maybe make this a little bit more tangible. I'm going to use a really simple goal here. I'm just going to say that a small solopreneur maybe wants to make 50,000. And feel free to go through this as we're doing it. Think of your number. How much do you want to make in 2019? And some of you may have seen this exercise. I know a lot of our advisors do it, but it's such a crucial exercise, even if you've done it before, to do it now. What is your earnings goal for 2019? Write that number down. What are you going to put into your pocket? And let's just break this down to the most controlled dynamic here. What's the controlled metric here? How much is every month worth? Well, that 50,000 means, am I doing the priorities that will earn me $4,167? Let's go to the week. Am I doing enough in the week within my time constraints that will earn me $1,042 a week? Feel free to do the math as you're going down, everybody. When you do weeks, do not divide by 52 weeks. Do it by 48. There's holidays, there's time off. That's an important part of this. How much is every hour worth? Am I doing tasks that would be equal to $20 an hour in order to make this? And lastly, how much is every minute worth? This number usually shocks people. Am I doing something that's worth 34 cents? Did I earn my 34 cents that minute? These are some of the things you have to think about constantly. This isn't, oh, this is a fun exercise. Oh, this is interesting, makes me think a little. No. Are you running this in your head constantly, minute by hour, by week, by month? My challenge is you have to think about these things constantly, because your world evolves so fast through those ups and downs as the business owner. I know you can relate to me on this. You have to see it for what it is. Let's go to the other extreme. I picked a kind of a smaller earnings goal. Let's really push the earnings goal. I want to earn $1 million. I want my business to generate $1 million in profitability for me. Let's see how different these numbers really look. $83,000 a month. Am I doing the tasks that earn me $83,000 a month? $20,833 a week. $417 an hour, but this is the one I want to focus on. $6.94 a minute. What you do, is it worth $6.94 a minute? And some of you will challenge and say, well, I don't know if money earned is the number I need. No problem. Pick whatever motivates you and divide it by time. Divide it by time and figure out how you can get there. And again, I picked my own hours. I picked my own minutes. You can go in and actually say, these are the hours I want to work. So what does that mean for me? The point is, it's not about how to run this exercise. The point of this is how to connect this and understand that your mindset, you have to constantly be thinking about the value of what you can do. So I'm going to sit and I'm going to update my social media platform, and I'm going to write a really great content piece. It's going to take me 3 or 4 hours. That's a task that I want to go do. I think it might help my business. Problem is, you took 4 hours to do it, and you are worth, let's say, $200 an hour when you make $400,000 a year. Let's say those are the objectives you're working towards. I know there's a lot of assortment of business owners sizes here. Do you realize that sitting down to do that, you could have paid someone $100 to do that piece for you? You are operating at that level, so that is the pay that you will receive. And this really compounds if we look at a higher task. Let's say a meeting with an executive team member who's a leader in your organization who leads. What is the impact you have to make in that 1 hour shared with them each week that will allow you to leverage your time through them as they lead the rest of the troops? Again, this is a mindset element. So Scott asked a great question here. How do you do this with the menial tasks that don't make you money, but are required to run a business? Great question. I mean, there's some great options out there. Feel free for those that maybe know the answer to that to go ahead and throw some ideas in there. I know for me, Scott, what I would say is you need to learn how to delegate them. You need to figure out which ones are the ones that you are only the individual that has to do them. Because my gut tells me if we laid out the tactics and had a long enough conversation, let's say there were 10 of them, we probably would be able to take those 10 tasks and get to where 2 or 3 of them are yours. And again, it's the average, right? Again, it's the average. You may have to do that 1 hour a week of this or 2 hours a week, but people get sucked into the admin. They don't realize that you can automate. They don't realize you can build systems. They don't realize that you can delegate to others and use different technology or service providers that are out there. You're not going to build this business on your own. You have to work through a team or through vendors or through others that can help support you. And that is a challenge. It's something we constantly are working with our advisors, with our clients on in every advising meeting. It's not normal to think that way because it just seems easier to do it ourselves. And I'm sure we can all relate to that. So I want to know if you feel you're operating at your weekly value. Before I kind of walk you through my process and how I approach this, I want to know, let's go ahead and launch this poll here. Are you operating at your weekly value? No, not near it. I got some big changes I need to make. No, I need to make some tweaks if I'm going to raise this. I'm inconsistent. I feel like sometimes I'm doing it, but other times I'm not. And then you hit the value needed every week. And I'd be surprised if we get anybody on the last one there, but let's see where people are feeling right now in terms of their value. Awesome. We've got about 60%. I'm going to wait for just a few more people to, okay, great. Here they're coming. Let these last few that are maybe thinking about where they're at. All right, I think we can go ahead and push that. We did have one person that is at their value, so I love it. I can't see who that individual is, otherwise I would call it out just for fun. But it seems like the winning actually is inconsistent. I would have thought it might have been I need tweaks to raise this, but that's okay. So it sounds like a lot of people on the call are feeling I can do this at times, but how do I maintain it? How do I hold it? It makes a lot of sense that you could feel that way. Some of you then, looks like the second one was I need tweaks and the last one was just nowhere near it. Some big changes to make. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and stop sharing those polls here so we can keep moving. All right. So the final big question, right? What do we start with first? We started with, why do you do this? Are you constantly thinking about why you are doing this, where you are headed? The second question, what is my value? What am I worth? You have to be constantly asking yourself that daily. Now, with those in mind, what are my priorities? And this is where the tactical, a little more tangible comes into play. The issue is you could do anything in this role. This is what makes it so hard what we do. You could do anything. Literally, go build a rocket ship right now. You could do it. If you wanted to, you could. That's the ability of being an entrepreneur. And I think we all want that autonomy. We want that our own drive to be able to go conquer. We have that feeling. But the problem is when we don't understand how to choose wisely, it gets absolutely chaotic. Let's talk about other folks maybe that are struggling. You could do nothing. I've launched this business or I've gotten this business to where it is and I'm burnt out. I don't want to do it. Or maybe I'm in paralysis by analysis. I don't know what the right decision is. So I'm just sitting, waiting around. Maybe there's a tactic or task I'm just not excited about doing. The key here is you have to choose wisely. You have to take time to pick what you're going to work on if you want to get proactive. And you all knew where this was going. You knew I was going to say, well, the only way to manage and really get good at your priorities is you have to take the time to proactively plan your priorities. And I'll tell you why this is. There's really two things that go with this, right? The first one is you can't do a lot of little tasks. And I'll give you my example. Hopefully you guys have seen these games. You've probably been to a carnival or some type of amusement park where you've seen this. The one on the left here is one of my favorite. You actually, spray the water in. The first person to spray the amount of water in wins, right? You've got your horse race where you roll the balls up and they plunk in. We've probably all seen not the casino, that'd be a little more fun, the carnival games. But here's the thing. Let's say I made a bet for you. And I said, I will give you your 2019 earnings goal if you can get all 10 of the horses or all 10 of these spray jets completed in a set amount of time. How would you go about it? Well, I would imagine you're not going to sit down and spray for a few seconds into number one and then pick up, move over, sit down and spray number two, and then pick up, spray number three, and just do little by little and just keep jumping back and forth between all the seats. Or maybe on the horse game, you roll a few balls in one, you jump to number two, you roll a few balls up, trying to move all these horses across. I want you to visualize this analogy because this is what you are doing. I constantly see this trap. You're doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, over here, over there, over here, over there. You cannot get into that situation. You have to learn to be uncomfortable and that things are going to happen that you cannot control in this business, but you're going to keep your eye on the most important one or two items that you're working on. Because the way that you would win this is I would sit my butt in between two seats and I would take two jets and I would spray them into number one and two at the same. And I would spray them until I won, until both of those went all the way up and they were finished. I finished those tasks. I finished my campaign. I finished my big priority. I will then get up and sit down at the next two and spray. Notice I'm talking about two. I'm not talking about one. Yes, as entrepreneurs, we normally have to manage multiple things. We can't get too segmented at this size of the business. But that is how you will get across the line of a massive goal. It will not be these little sprays along the way. I hope this visual really helps you understand the pattern or the situation you may have put yourself into. Let's talk about drunk driving for a moment. I'm assuming no one on this call would say, yeah, I want to drunk drive. I don't think anybody sets out to go, that's my intention. So most of us plan ahead. It's very easy, actually. We need to plan ahead. If we have a car sharing service or if we're going to set up a designated driver to help us, these are all opportunities that we have to be proactive. But think about when you accidentally go out, you have your car somewhere, you go out for fun, you don't realize the kind of night it's going to be, and the question that you are asked to make for yourself in the moment. In that heat of the moment, it becomes a hard decision because you're not thinking fully. This is the same way in running a business. If you don't take the space proactively to plan those priorities, which I will tell you how to here in a moment, but if you don't take the chance to do that, you will find yourself being forced to make a lot of hard decisions in the heat of the moment, and it will feel like rapid, uncomfortable fire. You will feel massive ups and downs. It'll be emotionally draining, and you'll see it impact your personal life. Because a lot of times the things that we need to be doing are actually not what we want to be doing. It's not maybe why we started the business. Oh, I'm going to leave my corporate job and go start this business. Or, oh, after university, I'm going to create this company. For whatever reasons you had, I don't know if you had the foresight to realize what you would have to do as the owner. I find most owners did not. So when you're in the moment, you're very rarely to ever make the decision on what you want to do. Sorry, what you don't want to do, right? You're constantly going to go to the things that are more fun. things you get more energy from, things you more enjoy, but that may not be what actually creates the value of your time. And that can be a hard dose of reality for some people to take on as the entrepreneur. So to come back, a lot of you said I'm reactive or in that stage, not quite so proactive yet. Here's kind of a unique way to maybe look at this. If you're living in the reactive world, you're picking your priorities based on urgency. It's commonly just to oversimplify it for everybody, we are picking our priorities by urgency if we're feeling reactive, running to the next fire. And the business will most likely not grow and really shift the new direction. Not always, but majority of the time I find reactive leaders are not achieving growth objectives. Proactive leaders and owners, on the other hand, they're picking by impact. They're making a decision of what they want to do and why by what impact or value it will produce. And they're doing their best to manage the urgent levels. Because everything, if you want it to be, can be on fire. Or you can just accept that that's as good as it's going to be, remove some of that perfectionist that maybe some of you have if that's your issue, and be comfortable that we'll reiterate that later. But right now, this is my focus because this is what will give me the biggest lift and the biggest impact with my time spent. So if you've had any priority management or training of any kind, you're going to see a bunch of different quadrants of how do you pick the right priorities. And this is the one we've chosen to use. We can recommend a few different other systems if this doesn't quite work for you. And if you've seen this before, stay tuned with me because you have to think through this for you, and it's always changing. Your world is always changing. You may view this a little differently. So an A priority means that it is urgent and important. A B priority is not urgent but important. A C priority is urgent but not important, and a D is not urgent and not important. I find that when I meet with owners, that 50 to 60% of what they are doing is in C and D, and the other 30 to 40% is in A. And very rarely do I see people get it right, that they are hanging out with B priorities. That's right, I don't want you to necessarily always be in A. Sometimes those are needed. Before I tell you what percentage I have found is kind of the sweet spot, take a moment. We're going to do a quick exercise. Grab your piece of paper and write down what percentage of time do you feel you're on A priorities? What percentage do you feel you're on B, so on with C, and so on with D? And remember, as you're answering this, urgent is not what you feel is urgent. It's what the business needs to hit the end goal. Important is not what you feel is important. It's what the business needs to be important in order to hit the end goal. So take a moment and write those 4 percentages down. And if you've already got them down, maybe just jump in the chat room and share. I'd love to see what some people look at and where they feel they're at between A, B, C, and D. What percentage of where you spend your time is spent on these different priorities, if you were to take a rough guess? Give everybody here just another few seconds. And again, if you have a few of them done, throw them up there just so we can get an idea. Some people may be a little cautious, not as comfortable to share. Don't worry, this is a safe place. We're not going to send this anywhere. And when we record the video, they can't see the chat room. So there's definitely some consistencies here between a few. Andrew, yours is a little different. Let's get a few more and see if we start to see a pattern that starts to develop that people are struggling with or where they're at. So as those kind of keep rolling in, I'm sure some people are still typing and they'll start to pop in here pretty quick. Here they come. It really matters that you're in tune with where you're at on this. And an easy way to do this is just to look at it. Take a screenshot of this right now on your computer. Put this as your backdrop, your desktop background, and look at it constantly and ask yourself, where am I at right now? How important is this to the goal? And anytime it's not important, anytime you're not an A or B, try to delegate it. Try to figure out who else can do this. How can you shorten the amount of time you spend on this? You'll never remove your C's and D's. Don't try. But use this as a filter. It's a simple, tangible tool that'll help create more consciousness to connect the end goal, connect the dots to what's taking place with your value, and ultimately help you achieve more with less time, to be able to choose what are the right priorities. Because this is kind of it's a very gray thing. This is not such a black and white. There is no book that can teach you this. The only way I know how to do this is to filter it and be comfortable spending that time to filter it. For those of you that may be looking for something a little more advanced, here's the option. And again, if you've worked on some of this training before with us, you may have seen this. This is kind of our go-to strategy. If you really want to manage your priorities, you have to start to understand you have to take the time every day, every week, every month, however you want to look at it, to take the time to plan out your priorities. Give yourself space to think and work on the business. I've had a lot of clients of our firm come up and tell me that when I taught them this, they came back to me and said, well, this is actually just what I get to do with my advisor. I'm actually forced and held accountable to be inside of the meeting with my advisor and work on the business. Yes, that's one of the perks maybe you've experienced, but it's also important to do this on your own. You have to do the thinking for the business. You are the visionary. You are the one that will take this business to the next level. You are the one that can control your time, no one else. So the way to do this is you break down the goals. You start with step one right here. Take that annual goal, that into 2019 objective, maybe even further out, break it down. What do you have to do this week or this month to get there? Now, if you're not good at breaking down goals and getting down to control goals, that's a whole other conversation. One of our advisors, reach out to us. One of our advisors will help you break that down so you can do that step. But hopefully you've got some of your goals identified that you want to work towards. Now, you have to separate goals from tasks. What are all the tasks I have to do? I'm going to list all of those out. What do I have to do to hit these goals? I'm also then going to list all the rest of the tasks that are in my head, because you have to clear it out of here. Otherwise, you'll stay in that reactive mode. Then I'm going to go back to the quadrant, and I'm going to go through each one and label it A, B, C, and D. Now, that's just a mental exercise to help you navigate which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to try to get rid of. Because then you're going to identify the timeline. I know a few people spoke at the beginning like, well, how do I measure the amount of time? You always plan double at first. When it's a new task, plan double what you think it is. You'd rather have more space. And you'll go, there's no time for that. I know. That's the reason why I gave you that response. It will force you to learn how to manage. If you wanted to put that much time, it better be an important priority for you to do that. So when I go through this, right, I spend about an hour every Friday looking at my next 2 weeks, kind of looking at the month as a whole. And when I usually come up with anywhere from 30 to 60 tasks that I need to do. I usually, out of those 30 or 60, I'll identify the quadrant and I'll kick out, oh gosh, I bet 50% of the tasks, I just decide I can't do it, or I find someone else on my team to do it. When I first started the business, just Dan and I, the other co-founder, often we just say, no, we just can't do it. We just had to get over it. We had to pick the most important priority, again, in pursuit of the goal, not what I wanted to be doing. But when I pick the timeline, common misconception is you pick too small of amount of time. You also put like an hour here, an hour there. You need to give yourself blocks of time and really make it a priority. Put it in the calendar as if it was a meeting that you cannot move. And if you are not willing to do that, it must not be a big enough priority. That was kind of the filter I started to learn that helped me learn a healthy work-life balance while also putting in a healthy amount of time to grow and scale my business. Then you schedule it. That's a whole other training session. What are the keys to scheduling? We're not going to get into that today. Block scheduling. There's a lot of really cool features out there. We'll talk about another time. But you have to schedule all of these different items into your calendar. Make sure they fit. But the most important one is when you go to replan it again, you better track it. You better review how you did. Because otherwise you won't learn how to measure time in the future. You need to learn how long things take, how long each different aspect should be. These are the different elements you have to do if you really want to go to the next level in picking your priorities outside of just the mindset. I found that majority of you probably needed the mindset conversation I covered first, the majority of this. But if you were looking for a little bit more of an advanced, this would be where I would start at. Start giving yourself 2 hours a week. Yes, 2 hours to go over the top and make sure you are on the right priorities and give yourself space to think. You deserve that. There's no way you will manage this in the moment. And remember to focus on those big items. So let's hit some time hacks. You got to learn how to say no. None of this works if you are uncomfortable saying no. I am always quick to say no. I am slow to say yes. Hear that again. I am always quick to say no. I am slow to say yes. I have a funny joke in my office. Somebody will come to my office. Hey, Casey. I always just respond with no. They think I'm just being silly. I'm not. I'm actually training myself. Don't be so nice. I'm going to probably have to say no. I'm probably going to have to say no because I know it's the only way to protect the priorities. Get comfortable saying no. Get rid of the to-do list. Take all those posts that you have on your computer right now, throw them in the trash. To-do list, all it does is cloud the brain. You have to transfer that to your calendar. You need to transfer that to-do list onto a calendar that actually measures time and make sure that it is a priority. Otherwise, it feels like you have this big thing to go do, or you have all these different tasks, but it may not be real when you filter through the priorities. The concept of do versus do. When I schedule something, once I choose a priority, just a quick skill hack, don't just schedule the time in which you need to have it done by the DUE date. Make sure you also schedule the DO time, the due time. When am I actually going to do this? When do I need to have it done by? And it's not always so simple. Sometimes it can be a sales goal or something that's complex that has a lot of different tasks. It might take me an hour to schedule for one goal, the due time, because of all the little DOs I have to put in to really feel comfortable that I've given myself enough space to hit that impactful goal. And another one here is slush time. A couple of you jumped in early and said, I really want to learn about how the heck do I deal with all these things that keep coming up? Pain in my butt. If you think you're the only one that deals with this, you're absolutely crazy. We all have things that come up, total distractions, total out of left field. You have to be comfortable that not everything has to be solved in that moment. Just because something pops up and it's important to someone else does not mean that that is what is most important to the business goal that you are leading the business to. Give yourself some slush time. Do not fill that calendar so darn tight. If you want to work 50 hours a week, give yourself 8 to 10 hours of slush time. Schedule it in. Hour and a half a day, whatever you need, put at the end of the day to where when those items come up, you can communicate effectively to the employee or to the client or to the vendor or whatever has happened in your universe that has created the distraction. You have a place to put it. And you communicate when you will work on it so that you can set clear expectations. And when they say, but I really need it now, you say, I know. But I also have things I'm working on because I've already done my work. I have to get my things done first because I know what my priorities are. It's not that I just credit your priorities. I will get to it at the slush time I have established. That is a very, very important moment. So just to review these again, no, you have to get comfortable saying no. You have to be comfortable stripping away the to-do list. It has to be measured on a calendar. Otherwise, it's just this endless list. You'll never check out. You'll never truly have work-life balance because something's always on your brain. The do versus do time. And lastly, the slush time. If you can do those 4 things, if you can plan your time, if you can have the right mindset, you will find yourself choosing unbelievably better results. And again, just remember that 10% shift of choosing better priorities is the same as saying you get a month back of time. Just think about that. Use that visualization to understand why you need to make these tweaks. So for our clients that are here on the line, jump into the back end of the website, log in, and these are the 3 I would encourage you to check out. Our priority management workbook. It actually walks you through the step, gives you a nice little worksheet you can use. Effective scheduling walks through some of the different scheduling hacks I started to talk about and goes a bit further. I also wanted to announce we are launching our LMS next week. It's the learning management system. I have designed 10 courses on productivity where I actually walk through different workbooks and different trainings. This thing is over the top. You want to talk about becoming a productivity expert, you're going to want to check that out in a few weeks. You'll have access to that on the back end of the site when we roll that out. Tina, great question. What were the percentages for the matrix sweet spot? Here's what I found for me. A is only 10%. B, 70%. C, 20%. You should never be doing D's. Ever. That's my sweet spot. That's what I'm always aiming at. For those of you that are clients in the room, make sure you talk to your advisor, debrief on what your learning was. Make sure you get some of these elements added to your roadmap. Let us support you through this transition. It's going to be a long one. This is not an easy skill, and you can't just learn it once. I have to study this constantly to continue to be able to answer those 3 questions so I can move forward at the right pace. If you haven't heard, we just announced Catapult 2019. This is our annual conference. We had a blast last year. All right. If you can come to this, we'd love to see you. Clients, you get to come for free. So get signed up ASAP. Make sure you grab your ticket. They are in limited supply. You can do that by logging in on the back end of the site. There's an option to sign up for Catapult. Grab your ticket so you do not lose out on this. If you're not with us, if you become a client, you can come to our conference. It's really the only option I have for you at this point. We're really trying to make this conference about our clients. We've got our next half-day workshop. Again, for our clients, it's going to be marketing theme. We haven't quite chosen our topic yet. So if you have some ideas, talk to your advisor and help bring that up to the company so we can pick the right. But we know we're going to talk about marketing. We had about 280 owners at all the different half-day workshops across the US and on the virtual and also in Vancouver. That's going to happen on May 15th in the morning. So mark your calendar. You're going to get some more information on that. And also my next CEO webinar series, and this is for everybody, not just clients, May 21st, I'm back at it again at 11 a.m. I'm going to be talking about how to attract your target audience. I continue to find owners are going after the wrong audience and they wonder why they cannot get that marketing engine going at the speed they need to be successful. So I hope you join us for that. It's going to be a really, really great time. Very similar structure if you like today. If you're not a client with us, we do have advising solutions. Obviously, that's what we do day to day. If you're interested, we are offering a 2 free-hour session. That's how we always start. You can only take us up on that one time, though. What we do is we help pick what's the right advisor for you based on a quick call, and then we let you have that free advising session. There's no obligation. Come, learn, work on this if you want. We just want to show you what our chops are and what we're capable of as we continue to help hundreds and hundreds of business owners get to the next level. So as we land today, we're going to go ahead and launch a poll. You can sign up. We can get you help sign up for Catapult. We can help you get to the half-day workshop registration, so it adds a calendar invite for you. We can also help you get signed up for the webinar if you want to come to May 21st. So feel free to select those. And again, if you're not a client, go ahead and click that first one, and we're going to get you signed up for those 2 free hours of advising, so that way you can take us up on that offer. Again, no obligation for that. So after you've done filling out the poll, here's what I'm asking you to do. I'd like you to jump in the chat, and I'd like you to write out what were those 2 big things you grabbed. Remember at the beginning, I said, I want you to pick your 2 tweaks of action that's going to move you to the next. And by you sharing this, not only does it help everyone else maybe remember something else that we talked about today, but more importantly, it helps me. I'm curating this content. I build every single one of these uniquely every time because I want to bring as much value as I possibly can to all the small business owners in the community. So please go on that chat. Let me know, what did you learn today? What did you take away? Because that helps me understand what was sticking and what really connected. And it'll help me continue to curate my content into the future. As always, submit any final questions. We'll do our best, if we didn't get them answered, to reach back out to you. Thank you so much for attending. I hope we made this a valuable, high priority 1 hour time for you. And it looks like we're going to land right on time. I think crisis averted. I was worried about ending late when we talk about how to manage your time. So didn't want to do that. Thanks, everybody. Again, remember to throw in your 2 biggest takeaways and update that poll with your next steps. Let's go choose the right priorities. See you, everybody.